Hello everyone, my name is Madeline and welcome to my channel, Soju Bujo, where I share ideas and inspiration for using bullet journaling to advance social justice goals. I have been bullet journaling for 3 years now, and I like to incorporate spreads into my bullet journal that keep me accountable not only to myself and my personal goals, but also to my community and my desire to center social justice in my life. So as I enter my 4th year of bullet journaling, I wanted to create this channel as a platform to share some of those ideas with the broader Bujo community. On what to expect from this channel, I'm planning to post monthly Plan With Me videos where I will briefly introduce kind of my color palette, my aesthetic theme, and then I'm just going to allow the footage to roll while I turn in the voiceover to discussing a particular social justice kind of theme of the month. So through that reflection, I'm going to point out different tools I found useful to incorporate it into my bullet journal or to prioritize that particular lens, as well as some of the resources, literature, and voices I found most useful to understanding that particular social justice focus. So now that I've finished with the title page, I'm moving on to my Year at a Glance page. The Year at a Glance is a kind of a typical spread that many bullet journalers include in their yearly setups. I'm actually not going to be covering kind of the basics of bullet journaling on this channel. There's a lot of content out there that goes over the kind of method and purpose and variations of bullet journaling, and I don't really see a need to compete with any of that. So if you're interested in exploring more the basics, some of the creators that have taught and inspired me have included Amanda Rich Lee, Jashi Kurin, Yoon Suni, Julianne Doodles, Plant-Based Bride, and Temi Studio. I can leave them linked in the description below. And then following my Year at a Glance, I also have a quote page here. I've included a simple quote, more of a mantra to remind myself of the kinds of qualities I think are most important in successfully identifying and achieving social justice goals. So, of course, it's important to be bold, to be enthusiastic, to be excited, to be driven. It's also important to be humble. Humility is key in social justice work, especially for aspiring allies. You know, we need to be humble about our own limitations. We need to be humble about our own biases. Really just kind of counteract the hubris that leads to the resistance or the denial that can contribute to social injustice and inequity. And then finally, courage. You know, I think courage is the most important part. It's important to be brave. Not everyone realizes that challenging social norms and the status quo literally invokes a fear response in humans. So belonging to a social group, it was such a key element of our survival throughout our evolution that, studies show that when we say something or do something that violates unspoken social expectations, even if we do it deliberately and even if that action is in line with our values, the human body still experiences like a fight or flight response. So I include that in the quote to remind myself that if I'm not scared, if I'm not asking myself to be brave, if I'm not activating my courage, then I'm probably not doing social justice right. I want to pause here and do a quick disclaimer/apology. I am new to this whole videotaping myself while journaling thing, and so you can see my glasses and sometimes even my nose in the earlier footage in this video. It wasn't enough of a problem to refilm everything, and I did fix the issue later, but I just want to thank you for your patience as I learn more about using this medium. On to my future log, which you'll notice is very different to a typical future log, and it likely makes sense to no one but myself. So to be honest, I almost didn't include a future log this year because I really don't use it very often. But I'm going to give it one more try because I had this idea to try something new by designing my future log specifically for me by leaning into my synesthesia. So if you're not familiar with that word, synesthesia is a neurodivergency where cross-neural pathways in the brain lead to the involuntary crossing of sensory perceptions. So for example, some synesthetes smell a particular scent when they see a certain color or hear a certain musical note, like maybe G sharp smells like vanilla. More commonly, synesthetes, including myself, have something called color grapheme synesthesia, which means that we perceive letters and numbers as having colors. So for example, for me, the letter A is blue, as is the number 2. Or like the letter F is orange, and so is the number 8. But I also have another form of synesthesia called calendar synesthesia. And this is where we get into this bizarre future log here. So my calendar has this sort of rounded, rectangular, counterclockwise shape. And as you see, it makes absolutely no sense. The months are not proportionate to their length relative to one another. But this is how my mind works. This is literally how I picture myself in time every year. And so instead of trying to resist the way my mind works, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to give the future log one final try, setting it up like this, and we'll see if I actually use it this year. You know, I'm just going to add a little notch and put key dates like birthdays and holidays with little dashes where they belong, and we'll see how it goes. All right, on to my goals page. I divide my annual goals into 2 types. There are, my individual goals. These are the goals about myself. So each year I set a personal goal, a health goal, a professional goal, and a financial goal. And I call these my me, myself, and I goals. Then on the other side of the page, I like to set 4 more goals that I call my me and the world goals. So each year I like to set a social justice goal, an environmental sustainability goal, a civic engagement goal, and a financial conscientiousness goal. So basically setting goals to improve my relationship with and my accountability to my community, my planet, my country, and the economy. And I came up with these goals a couple years ago, and I found them to be relevant and useful, but I really welcome you to include in the comments below ideas for other types of me and the world goals in categories that might trigger good social justice work. Another quick interlude here while I continue on this page. I wanted to say a note on my materials. So I don't use very many materials when I bullet journal, so I don't think it's worth me talking very much about them, but if you're interested, I basically use a set of Pigma Micron fine liners, a large box set of 120 Staedtler Design Journey brand double-ended fiber tip markers, an Archer and Olive A5 size dot grid notebook, and just some gel pens that I picked up at CVS. Okay, back to the goals page. You'll also see I like to include in each section not just space to write what my goal is for the year, but I also have a little planning space where I can brainstorm and jot down ideas of how I might approach achieving that goal. And then finally at the end, I include a little space where at the end of the year, I can record how I did. So if, say, my civic engagement goal is to attend 6 local council meetings, then at the end of the year I can put the actual number I attended, like 6 or 5 or 8. Okay, on to my health spreads. I actually started bullet journaling for health reasons. A few years ago I was diagnosed with cancer, and I used bullet journaling to help me keep track of all the different medicines I had to take and what days I had to take them, because there were specific days and specific times running up to chemo, following chemo. So I captured all that in my weekly spreads, and that helped me keep track of what I needed to do. But I also think that prioritizing health is a very necessary part of prioritizing social justice for a few reasons. The first is pretty obvious, is just sustainability, right? I'm no good to any social movement, any social justice objective if I'm dead, or if I'm burned out. But second, it's important to recognize the intersection of health and social justice, right? So experiencing injustice and inequity due to aspects of your body or your social identity, it takes a toll on your health. So for those who experience those types of injustices frequently, it's important to do what you can to prioritize your health. And for those of us who experience these types of injustices far less frequently, it's important that we prioritize our health in solidarity, also because it helps us maximize our ability to contribute to social change, and just general to normalize a world in which health is valued and protected more generally. So I do this every year. I'm surprised I don't see more spreads like this. I write out the names, specialties, and phone numbers of all of my doctors that I'm supposed to see throughout the year. And then when I go to the appointments, I check them off here. So in the US, it's recommended that I see my primary care physician once a year. Also, since I'm an adult female, it's recommended that I see a gynecologist once a year. The US recommends that I visit the dentist twice a year, so I'll put 2 boxes for that. I am also still seeing my oncologist twice a year, so I put 2 boxes there. And then since I wear glasses, it's recommended that I see my eye doctor once a year, so I can put a box there. And then this year I also want to start kind of annual visits to a dermatologist because melanoma runs in my family and I want to catch it early if it happens. And on the other page, I'm including just kind of like a general health tracker that I've actually borrowed from Riley Autumn. I'll link her below. Just has a box for every day of the year, and here I'll keep track of some general health trends I want to track. So, for example, my period, neck pain, foot pain, as well as generally feeling ill or hungover. These are the kinds of issues I find I experience chronically, but you could customize this to fit your needs, like tracking indigestion or anxiety attacks or asthma attacks. And that can be, it can be useful information for your doctor to have kind of a trends analysis, but it's also just, useful to keep track of the trends. On to my finances tracker. I'll be honest, this is one I really have trouble figuring out something that works for me. I am not great at tracking my finances, but I think there's a really strong social justice case for why I need to improve at this, and it's premised primarily on 2 reasons. So the first is the social justice opportunity cost of not keeping track of my finances. I'm a strong believer that how I spend my money reflects my priorities. And so if my goal is to center social justice more in my life, then I think that means I should be spending more of my money on efforts that will improve access to social justice. But how do I do that if I don't know how much I'm making, how much I'm spending, what I'm spending it on, and how much I have left over that I can choose to invest in social justice efforts? Last year, my financial goal was to track my spending on a monthly basis. I did not achieve that goal, so this year I'm learning from that and I'm setting a less ambitious goal that I will track my income and spending every quarter. So this finances tracker here is a lot simpler than the one I set up last year, and I'm hoping that simpler will make me more likely to fill it out. But secondly, I also want to be more deliberate about what fellow YouTuber Shelby from Shelbizzle, I can link her below, what she calls voting with my dollar. I want to track not just how much I spend, but also where that money is going. This is the kind of tracker that helps keep me accountable to my values by ensuring that I'm spending my money in ways that align with my conscience. So you'll see here I have a simple tracker. I had this last year too, where I track all purchases I make that are over $100. I track a few things about these purchases. 1, I track where I bought them from. Last year, my financial conscientiousness goal was to buy fewer items from Amazon, so it was very useful for keeping track of that for me to have a setup like this. Next, I Note whether or not I bought this item new or used. Generally, buying used is better for environmental justice, but we will get a bit more into that at another time. And then I also like to give myself an incentive to try and buy things at below retail price. So use coupons, take advantage of sales, buy things used. So I keep track of the retail price of the item, as well as the price I paid, assuming I got it for less than the retail price. And then I say the amount I saved by doing that. And so that way I get another sense, the amount of money I've saved through conscious and savvy shopping throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, I have this nice little pocket of money I've saved that I can choose how I want to invest it in advancing social justice or promoting my values. And then my final spread today, I have what I call my library. So I know many bullet journalers like to have reading lists and things like that, but I actually like to keep track of more content that I consume than just books, because why limit yourself to the ways you learn and engage with people's stories and experiences? So there are so many formats that you can engage with these days that contribute to your social and educational growth, and I like to capture it all so that when I look back at my year, I can remind myself of all the things I've learned. So here on the right, I'm drawing out just a traditional bookcase where I will track the books that I read. Or actually, it's when I come across a book that I want to read, I write the title of the book on the binding. Then when I start reading the book, I use a marker to draw in kind of a diagonal line pattern to symbolize that I've started the book. If I finish the book, I color the binding in fully. But I've also decided that even if I've started a book, I don't need to finish it if I don't want to. I've found this one of the most liberating things I've adopted in recent years. The number of times I would just stop reading altogether because I was in the middle of a book that I wasn't enjoying, but I somehow felt like I had to finish it before starting something new. Reversing that and giving myself permission not to finish books that I don't want to finish has been transformative. I read a lot more now if I start a book, but I decide I don't want to finish it. So here, I'm just going to fill it in with like kind of a crisscross diagonal line, going kind of the perpendicular way to indicate that I started the book and have stopped the book. And that way, like at the end of the year, the bookshelf still looks all nice and neat. And then over here on the left, I'm drawing out 3 other kinds of content I like to track. So the first 2 shelves, I have these pseudo CD case type things stacked where I track albums I listen to and also podcasts that I subscribe to. I enjoy engaging a lot with social justice ideas and movements and experiences through podcasts like Intersectionality Matters or Solidarity Is This or Inclusive Life, How to Citizen, Code Switch. I'll include some of my favorites down below. And below that, I have kind of these DVD cases where I track the movies and series that I'm watching, but also where I track the YouTube channels that I subscribe to. YouTube is a wonderful platform for learning, at least for me, and I like to keep track of the different people that I'm following and the different series that I subscribe to on YouTube. And then at the very bottom of the shelf here, I have a small shelf to track new board games that I play this year. I like playing board games and want to kind of keep track of them. And that's my yearly setup. I'll do the flip through here. We have my title page, my year at a glance and my quote pages, my very bizarre synesthetic future log, my goals page with my me, myself, and I goals and my me and the world goals, my health trackers, my finances trackers, and my library. Thanks so much for watching. If you like the content in this video, please subscribe, like the video, share it, and leave a comment below. And I'll see you next time.